Welcome back here at the Sports Spectacular, powered by IlliniGuys.com. This segment presented by HX Home Solutions. Very cool to talk to our next guest because Mike and Brad, as you know, when I first began in television in 1990, there were a couple of guys there who didn't know who the blank eye was, and probably, but they cared enough to actually, if I had a question, they answered it because I was part of the media. SID's Mike Pearson is the other guy who's not on. We've talked with him before, but our friend Kent Brown is with us, recently retired as the sports information director at University of Illinois, and he's got some great projects going right now. Kent, good to see you. Retirement looks good on you. You're looking good.
Well, I stay as busy as I want to stay. And, shortly after I retired, Josh asked me to return in a part-time role as a athletics historian. So that's kind of what they do to old SIDs. They put us in the back pasture and give us all the historical projects that come along, and which is stuff that I find a lot of interest and I have a lot of passion for. So I've really enjoyed that part of it.
That's all. Well, you know where all the skeletons are buried.
I do
As
have a few of those too. Yeah,
there you
yeah.
go. So exactly. So well, listen. I know you've got exciting, a lot of things going on, but I want to start with the stuff you guys have been putting out on social media. You and Mike. These vintage posters from back in the day. As we're talking the 100th anniversary here of Memorial Stadium this season. Tell us about kind of what that project's about.
So we have a couple of, Mike and I both having history at the University of Illinois and in the sports information department as the SID. We both have a passion for the history and preserving that history of our athletics tradition here. And we have a couple of parallel preservation projects that we've been working on. And Mike came up with an idea to help raise some money for that, some funds. I mean, obviously, in the athletics world today, the student athletes has always been a priority. And with some of the things that changes that are happening, transitions that are happening in athletics, that has become a real priority. And so Mike and I recognized that and saw, okay, if we're going to do these preservation projects, we're going to have to figure out how to pay for them and use other funds. And fundraising is part of it. If there are fans who are interested or former athletes who are interested in being a part of it, we would certainly be open to that. But one idea that Mike had was to digitize the schedule posters for mainly men's basketball and football, and we've got copies of a lot of those that date back to the 1920s. And the artwork on those are always, I think, find very interesting. If you've been in the press box at Memorial Stadium, we have a whole wall full of schedule posters that date back. We have some that date back to the 1920s, but pretty much from the 60s to present is complete. And then there's some others that are filled in. And I just enjoy looking at the artwork over those time and who's on there, what's on there, what the priorities were. And so IlliniPosters.com became a real thing to help raise some money for that. We have that poster art can go on anything, mugs, coasters. There's a lot of different items that Mike is able to do that. And so that's one project and one way that we're trying to fund this. And so the two preservation projects, we have a history collection in the sports information office, a printed collection of bound books that basically go back to 1915 that record every sporting event that the Illini have been involved with in every sport every year. And so it's broken down. It's football, basketball, maybe in a book, or track and gymnastics and baseball and whatever. It could all be bound in a book, but it's by year all the way back to 1915 to today. And so a lot of that is becoming very brittle. There's some records that can never be reproduced. And so we really need to digitize that and scan it, which would then make it certainly more available to fans to look at or researchers to dig into. On the other side of this is a films project that one of my first jobs that I was assigned by Tab Bennett, who was the SID before Mike Pearson, was to go to the stadium and clear out some closets of 16 millimeter films that had been stored over time, and that they needed the closet space for storage. And so I spent about 3 days going through all these films, and that's of course how coaches review the games until the advent of videotape in the 80s and 90s. And so, coaches could still say, I have to go watch the film, right? I mean, that was the thing. That's where this came from. And so we have about 650 canisters of 16 millimeter films that date back to the late 30s of football and basketball games. And I moved them to the archives in 1987, and basically that's where they've sat for the last nearly 40 years. And we would occasionally pull out a couple to digitize or to share with somebody who wanted to pay for it to have it copied over. And so I took it on, became a kind of a passionate project of mine to get the entire project, the entire collection digitized. And so actually a couple of weeks ago, I loaded them up with help from folks from the archives and drove them to Dallas, Texas, to a company that we're working with to digitize these things. And it's going to take 3 or 4 months to get through the 650 films and tapes that I took down. And hopefully we'll have the ability to make those accessible to fans to watch, to former, maybe family members of former players, and that sort of thing. And so, but really, it's the only way we can preserve our history in a way that can be useful and not lose it to time. And so, both those projects are going on. We hope fans check out the IlliniPosters.com. It's a great gift where I think we'll expect to see an uptick here as we get into the season around the Michigan game and the 100th anniversary, and then also around the holidays, because there's a lot of different things you can put some really cool Illini art that's very unique and really help a great project, something that'll preserve our history.
Well, Kent, I could have saved you a trip down here to Dallas. I go up from Champaign to Dallas all the time. I could have saved you a little bit of time. I'm going to the website. There are a ton of different things that you can buy. And so just so I understand, when somebody goes through here, let's say they buy a reprinted football poster and they give that as a gift to an Illini fan, the proceeds of that will be what funds the restoration of these films and these books. That's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, everything that goes into that goes right into this project. We have a fund set up with our development staff that Mike tracks that, and his orders come in, and then basically just turns it around and sends it in to the iFund for that account, and that's helping pay for this project. So it's not cheap to preserve history. The films are it's a project. Our project is somewhere north of $125,000. And so, how we fill that in, and we're getting a little bit of help from the archives on campus. There are places where there's some funding, but we're going to have to come up with this on our own, and so we're working any direction we can. The project of the records history is another one. We're trying to figure out how to do this without jeopardizing or changing some of the priorities that are going on in the athletics department. We understand that, but we know how important it is, and we know how important our history is. And I think a lot of our fans enjoy the history and learning about what happened in the decades ago. And so this is too important, and it's too great of a collection to let it just turn to dust at some point. And we're not in that, but we're in a point where it needs to really be addressed, or we're going to lose it.
Yeah. And it's such great history. I mean, Illinois athletics, especially Illinois football, even though the program is not done recently what it did back in the heyday, the history is just tremendous. And so I think it's exciting that you've taken this on. Another thing I know you're doing here during this 100th season, you talked about you kind of in the Great West Hall, kind of a pop-up museum that spectators, when they come to games, can see that. Talk about kind of what that's about and how people can see that.
So in the process of planning for the 100th anniversary of the dedication of the stadium, an idea came up to let's put together a way to show our fans some of these fun artifacts that we've gotten that we've collected over the years. And so we built a pop-up museum in the Great West Hall. It's about midway through the Great West Hall there, and we built some walls that go out into the Great West Hall. And so some great graphics, the construction of the stadium, that dedication game with Red Grange and what that meant, some of the other events that have happened at the stadium, farm aid, graduation, NCAA track meets, things such as that are pictured there. We have a wall for first team All-Americans for the Illini who have played at the stadium, the greatest games, and then maybe the greatest events, some of the milestone events that have happened at the stadium. And then I have was able to get some from the archives, some display cases, and and you may remember my office had become kind of a catch all spot for a lot of framed photos and other things like that. And so I was able to go back through a lot of that and find some of the fun items and that relate to the stadium, and we're going to display those on game days. And so we have a Red Grange jersey. We've got Red Grange's cleats that he wore. We have game balls from 1924 that we're going to display in this little pop-up museum, so fans can walk through there and get a chance to catch a little history. There's some great text and messages there to give some history. I've already got some feedback from some of the workers when they're walking through there and say, this is like one of the coolest things we've ever seen, and so that makes me feel good because there's a little bit of thought and effort put into this thing. And so as the season, as fans come through during the season, hopefully they'll get a chance to check it out.
I think that's awesome. And note to all fans going to games, be sure to take some extra time from your tailgate, whatever, to get inside and just go through this. It's just such a special year of Illini football at Memorial Stadium, and the stuff I've seen out there already has been exciting. We all could talk about our first time in the stadium. Mine was 1980 and watching Dave Wilson, in Illinois play Minnesota. I mean, we all have those memories. This certainly predates that. Once again, the website is IlliniPosters.com. Kent, great to talk with you. You look great. Congrats on all the great work. Let us know how we can help out as you to get the word out here, and look forward to seeing you this fall at Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, no, I appreciate talking to you guys and talking about this. These are passion projects that Mike and I both have, and we put a lot of time in our careers in preserving our history, and we want to make sure it continues for people down the road. And I've always told my staff, and I told everybody, it's not what we're doing here isn't for people to look at in the next 2, 3, 4 years. It's for people to look at in the next 50 years, and 60 years from now, and 70 years from now, and 100 years from now, when they want to look back at Illinois athletics history. And we think both of these preservation projects have a high level of importance to preserve that. And I think fans and hopefully want to get involved and be a part of it. And we'd certainly open to anybody that wants to become involved either financially or by purchasing parts of anything from IlliniPosters.com. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we thank you, and we're fortunate to have you and Mike as such great stewards of this project. I can't think of anybody better. Kent, thanks so much for that. And again, the website is IlliniPosters.com. And again, Kent Brown over that, longtime SAD at Illinois, and obviously his passion for the university athletics still exists today. We've got to take a quick time out right now. John Talty is on his way with his new book, The Price, talking about the current status of the college football world. This is a Sports Spectacular, listening to the Illini Guys Radio Network.